Hello everyone, I hope you all are doing well. So today we'll be studying the topic of endochondral ossification. In my last video, I taught about the intramembranous ossification. If you have not gone through that video, kindly go through it because many steps of that type of ossification will be repeated in this type. So it will be easy for you to understand this topic. You will hardly take 10 to 15 minutes to go through that. Okay, so now what is ossification? We discussed it in the last video also. It is just laying down of the bony tissue, right? Now ossification is of two types, intramembranous and endochondral. Intramembranous means a mesenchymal membrane is laid down which is changed into a bone. Endochondral ossification just involves addition of one simple step. That means the membrane is formed, cartilage is formed in that membrane, and now this cartilage is replaced by a bone. The most important word here is cartilage is replaced by a bone. Right? Now, endochondral ossification, as we already discussed, it is occurring in most of the bones of the body. Now, what are the various steps? We'll be drawing them one by one. We'll be writing the important changes that are occurring in going from one step to the another. So we'll start with it. The first step is mesenchymal membrane. We discussed it in the last video also. What is going to happen? The various mesenchymal cells, that are the undifferentiated cells, they will accumulate at the place of bone formation. They will lay down the fibers, the collagen fibers, and they will form a mesenchymal membrane, right? So we have a mesenchymal membrane. So the cells have accumulated here. That is, mesenchymal condensation has occurred. Right? So this step is mesenchymal condensation, right? That leads to forms the mesenchymal membrane. This is the first step. That was there in the intramembranous ossification also. Now what is going to happen here? An intermediate step, that means the cartilage is going to form here. Now how will the cartilage form? This is the mesenchymal membrane formed. Now in the area where the bone is going to form, that means the outline of the bone is going to form, what will happen? The mesenchymal cells there, they have the capacity to differentiate into any kind of cell. So they will differentiate into chondroblast, and those chondroblasts will lay down the cartilage. So again we have this mesenchymal membrane, right? We have this membrane and the mesenchymal cells. The few cells have differentiated into chondroblast and they have laid down the cartilage. Which kind of cartilage is laid down here? That is the hyaline cartilage. So this is again another important question, that in the endochondral ossification, which cartilage is formed? It is the hyaline cartilage that is replaced by the bone. So this becomes the cartilaginous model that is being replaced by the bone. Right? Now this cartilage has a perichondrium, right? This has a perichondrium. So label this as perichondrium. An important point here to remember is this perichondrium is very vascular. It is very vascular, plus it has the osteoprogenitor cells. Osteoprogenitor cells which will lay down the bone tissue. So perichondrium is very vascular and has the osteoprogenitor cells, that means which can change into osteoblast and lay down the bony tissue. When this perichondrium will play an important role in laying down the bone, we can call it as periosteum. So you don't need to get confused with the names. This is cartilage. It is lined by perichondrium. When it will be laying down the bony tissue, you can call this perichondrium as a periosteum. Now, moving to the next step, what happens? Suppose this whole is a cartilaginous model, and then we have the centers of ossification, from where the ossification begins. For example, there are primary center of ossifications, there are secondary center of ossifications. So if the primary center of ossification appears here, that means the bone will be started forming in this area. Right? So we'll talk about this area. In the part where the bone tissue has to start form, what will happen? The chondroblast hair, they will enlarge. The chondroblast present here, they will enlarge, right? So this is the part where the bony tissue, this is the part, for example, where the bone has to start forming. So what will happen now? The chondroblast will enlarge. So these are the chondroblast, right? They will enlarge and arrange themselves uniformly. So what has happened? Chondroblast has enlarged in size. Now what will happen? Under the influence of chondroblast, the matrix will get calcified, right? So the matrix here, it will get calcified. The chondroblast have laid down the matrix, and now the matrix has got calcified, right? So we have the calcified matrix here. Okay, and these are the enlarged chondroblasts. Now, what will happen? The next step. What will happen in the next step? Now, because the matrix has calcified, right? This calcified matrix will cut off the blood supply to the chondroblast. They will cut off the blood supply to the chondroblast, so chondroblast will die. Now we have again the empty spaces because the chondroblast have died, right? So what has happened in this step? The blood supply to the chondroblast stopped. So the chondroblast has died, and leaving behind empty spaces, they are known as primary areola. Areola means an empty space. So leaving behind empty spaces, that is primary areola, and this is again the matrix, right? This is again the matrix around the empty spaces. Right? Now, what will happen in the next step? Moving on to the next step. See what will happen here. Coming back to this part, what we did, that this cartilage is covered by perichondrium, and I told you the perichondrium is very vascular and it has osteoprogenitor cells. Now that thing will come into action. What will happen? The blood vessels from the perichondrium, you can call it as periosteum, they will move inside, right? They will move inside and they will eat away the matrix in between, right? So what has happened here? You call that as periosteal bud. Periosteal bud. What is periosteal bud? It is the blood vessel with osteoprogenitor cells. Okay, and what is it going to do? It eats away the matrix. And because of that, what we'll see, if the matrix in between these is dissolved, what will happen? These spaces will become very large. Right? These spaces will become very large. Now again the matrix around them. So some of the matrix is left, some between the cells is eaten away, the spaces becomes large, and now these spaces are called the secondary areola. Now what happens in the next step? See, what is going to happen is, here you have what? You have an artery and the osteoprogenitor cells around them, and then you have the secondary areola. If we talk it in a reverse manner, the wall of the secondary areola is formed by what? The matrix, the remnant matrix, and the blood vessel with the cells, that you call it as the periosteal bud, right? So you will have what? There is a matrix, right? So this is the matrix in between. You can write it down. This is a calcified matrix. This is the matrix, ye wala part, this part. And then we have the periosteal bud. That means the artery along with the osteoprogenitor cells, which will now get enlarged, and form the osteoblast. Now all the rest of the steps will be repeated from the intramembranous ossification. That is why I said that go through that video first. So now again we have the osteoblast, right? What will happen? The similar steps. Osteoblast will lay down the ossen fibers and then the matrix. So we can draw them very easily here. This is the matrix, right? Then we have these osteoblasts have laid down the collagen the ossen fibers. Ossen is a special protein found in the bones. So these are the ossen fibers. Then you have the osteoblast, which have arranged themselves along the margin of the ossen fibers. Then their nucleus, right? You can label this as ossen fibers, right? Then what is the next step? Then what happens? These osteoblasts will lay down the matrix. So the matrix will be laid down. Due to which the fibers, these fibers, it will be laid amongst these ossen fibers. So matrix will be, bony matrix will be laid down, due to which the fibers will swell up and will become less easily visible, right? So the fibers will become less prominent, and again the osteoblasts are here. Now the next step, calcium and magnesium salts are also laid down, and then this becomes, now we call this as one lamellus of bone, right? So what changes have occurred? Osteoblasts have laid down the ossen fibers. Then what is laid down? The matrix is laid down, right? Plus what has happened? Calcium and magnesium salts have been deposited, converting it into a bony lamellus. What will be the next step now? These osteoblasts will lay down another bundle of fibers and move away from this. So again, we can draw that part. So one bony lamellus is laid down already. This is one bony lamellus. These steps are all repeated from the intramembranous ossification. So this is one bony lamellus. In this bony lamellus, we have the salts deposited, right? Then these osteoblasts will be laying down another bundle of ossin fibers, another bundle of fibers. So another bundle is going to be ready to form another lamellus, and the osteoblast will move away and they will line themselves along the newly forming lamellus. Newly forming lamellus, right? And few of them, while moving away, they get trapped inside in between the two lamellus and they become mature, lose the power to divide, and we call them as osteocytes. So this is all about the endochondral ossification. Just a quick revision. The first step is same in both intramembranous and endochondral ossification, that is a mesenchymal membrane is laid down. Now those cells, they have the capacity to differentiate into any kinds of cells, right? So what will be doing? They will form first chondroblast. Chondroblast will lay down a model of hyaline cartilage, right? Then what will happen? This hyaline cartilage will have perichondrium. This perichondrium is very vascular and it has osteoprogenitor cells. Now a center of ossification will appear. That means from which point the bone formation has to start. So suppose this is the center of ossification where it appears here. So in this part, what will happen? These chondroblasts will enlarge. So now they have enlarged, and under the influence of these chondroblasts, the matrix has been laid down, and then this matrix get calcified. Now when it is getting calcified, that means it becomes hard enough, the blood supply to these chondroblasts is cut off. When it is cut off, the cells become dead. So leaving behind just empty spaces, we call them as primary areola. Now comes into action the perichondrium. The perichondrium, which was vascular, so that it means it has artery. So the artery, along with the along with the osteoprogenitor cells, it moves in, eats up some of the matrix, right? When it eats up some of the matrix, these areola, they join and they form bigger in size, and now we call them as secondary areola. Okay, now next step is what will happen? So we have remnant matrix in which we have the periosteal bud, okay, which has the osteoprogenitor cells. Now the next step occurs. The osteoprogenitor cells, they differentiate into osteoblast. So this remnant matrix is this, right? And there is a periosteal bud. These cells are osteoblast. Osteoblast will lay down what? They will lay down the ossin fibers. That means the collagen fibers with a special protein. So they will lay down the ossin fibers, and themselves they will arrange at the margin. Okay. Now these fibers, amongst these fibers, there will be laying of the matrix. Okay, due to which the fibers will swell up, and then there is laying down of the calcium and magnesium salts. So once the calcium and magnesium salts are added to it, it becomes one lamellus of bone, right? Now these osteoblasts have to move further away to add another fibers. So again they will lay down another fibers. Okay? And they will move further away, but some of them get trapped inside to form mature osteocytes which do not have the power to divide any further. So this is all about the endochondral ossification. In my next video, we'll be studying how does the growth of a bone occurs, what are the various parts of the bone, and till that it would be great if you understand this topic and press the like button and subscribe my channel. I'll be regularly coming up with more videos. Thank you so much.